For 2,000 years, it was just a prophecy. Today, that's changing. Many believe that the building of the Third Temple is a major prophetic sign of the end times, but has any real progress been made? You're about to discover 10 specific preparations that have been completed for the Third Temple. And by the time we get to number 1, you'll understand why this isn't just a religious story. This is a geopolitical earthquake waiting to happen. Don't skip ahead. Don't miss a single detail, because what you're about to see will shock you. This isn't just news. This is prophecy unfolding before your very eyes. What I'm about to tell you would have been impossible just 20 years ago. For decades after 1967, only a handful of Jews would ascend to the Temple Mount, and they weren't allowed to pray. But here's what's going to shock you. Today, tens of thousands of Jews ascend the Temple Mount every year. They're now allowed to openly pray, to sing, and to prostrate themselves in worship. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains. Isaiah 2:2. The path to complete Jewish freedom of access and worship on the Temple Mount remains long, but according to Temple Mount activists, it's clearly unstoppable. But what you're about to see next is even more incredible. This is going to blow your mind. For 2,000 years, nobody knew how to produce the exact crimson dye mentioned in the Bible. The secret was lost when the Second Temple was destroyed, but Professor Amar found it. And they shall take gold, and blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine linen. Exodus 28:5. This crimson dye isn't just decorative. According to biblical law, it must be used in the high priest's garments, the massive curtain separating the Holy of Holies, and as an essential ingredient mixed with ashes of the red heifer. Think about this moment. A color that disappeared from the world 2,000 years ago has been restored in our generation. But wait until you see what they've prepared for the temple music. What you're witnessing right now has never been heard in 2,000 years. This is the Temple Institute's Levitical choir performing the exact musical traditions that accompanied temple sacrifices in ancient times. Praise ye the Lord, sing unto the Lord a new song, and his praise in the congregation of saints. Psalm 149:1. Just last year, during the intermediate days of Sukkot, the Levitical choir joined dozens of other musical Levites in a festive performance at the southern wall of the Temple Mount. But music is just preparation. What about the religious authority that would govern this temple? This next one is going to shock you. What you're looking at right now is the design for the most important room that most people have never heard of. This is the assembly hall for the modern Sanhedrin, the supreme religious authority that will govern the Third Temple. But here's what's really incredible about this design. It's not just theoretical. The Sanhedrin has already been reconstituted. They're meeting right now. When thou art come unto the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt set him king over thee, whom the Lord thy God shall choose. Deuteronomy 17:14-15. Think about this moment. The religious governing body that will oversee the Third Temple is already meeting. They're not waiting, they're preparing. But stones are needed before governance, and what they collected will amaze you. We're standing at the Dead Sea, the lowest point on Earth, but what happened here in 2010 is going to shock you. Temple Institute representatives came to this exact location to collect something that's been waiting here for thousands of years. These are the stones that will form the altar of the Third Temple. Build there an altar to the Lord your God, an altar of stones. Do not use any iron tools on them. Deuteronomy 27:5. Every stone you're seeing has never been touched by metal tools. They were formed by natural geological processes and collected by hand. Workers standing where Moses himself might have stood, selecting stones according to laws given 3,500 years ago. But altar stones mean nothing without someone to wear the sacred garments, and what they've completed will leave you speechless. What you're seeing right now took over a decade to create. These are the complete garments of the Jewish high priest, recreated according to exact biblical specifications and ready to be worn. Fashion a breastpiece for making decisions. Mount 4 rows of precious stones on it. There are to be 12 stones, one for each of the names of the sons of Israel. Exodus 28:15. Each stone on this breastplate is authentic. Real sapphires, real emeralds, real diamonds. The gold work alone took master craftsmen over 2 years to complete. But here's the question that's keeping religious leaders awake at night. Who will wear these garments? But first, you need to see the building plans that will shock the world. What you're looking at right now are not conceptual drawings. These are operational blueprints for the Third Temple, created to modern construction standards and ready for immediate implementation. And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them, according to all that I shew thee, after the pattern of the tabernacle. Exodus 25:8-9. But here's where this gets absolutely mind-blowing. Not only are the blueprints complete, but they've built a scale model that you can actually visit right now in Jerusalem. These aren't just religious drawings. These are architectural plans that incorporate modern building codes, electrical systems, plumbing, heating, and ventilation. But blueprints are just paper without trained people, and what they're doing will amaze you. What you're witnessing right now has never been seen in 2,000 years. These are modern Jewish men, descendants of the priestly tribe of Levi, being trained to perform temple services that their ancestors haven't practiced since the Roman destruction of Jerusalem. And thou shalt anoint them, as thou didst anoint their father, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. Exodus 40:15. Picture this moment. You're watching the restoration of knowledge that was lost for 2,000 years. These men are learning rituals that their great-great-great-grandfathers, going back 70 generations, could only dream of performing again. In 2015, these trainees completed something extraordinary, the first accurate, authentic reenactment of the Korban Par, the Passover offering, in 2,000 years. But trained priests need sacred vessels, and what they've created is worth more than most people's houses. While the world was distracted, master craftsmen in Jerusalem have been recreating something extraordinary. Over 60 sacred vessels, each one crafted according to biblical specifications that haven't been relevant since 70 AD. And thou shalt make the dishes thereof, and spoons thereof, and covers thereof, and bowls thereof to cover withal, of pure gold shalt thou make them. Exodus 25:29.
This is the Temple Institute's recreation of the Golden Menorah. 95 pounds of pure gold. Price tag? $2 million. But here's the question that's going to shock you. Why spend millions of dollars creating functional temple vessels if you're not planning to use them? And thou shalt set upon the table shewbread before me alway. Exodus 25:30. But all of these preparations, the vessels, the training, the blueprints, the garments, the stones, all of it means nothing without the final preparation. Number 1 is going to change everything you think you know. What if I told you that 5 perfect red heifers were just flown into Israel, and they may be the final missing piece before the third temple is built? This is it. This is what prophecy has been waiting for. And for an unclean person, they shall take of the ashes of the burnt heifer of purification for sin. Numbers 19:17. The Bible talks about a mysterious ritual, one that hasn't been performed for nearly 2,000 years. A ritual involving a perfect red heifer. No spots, no blemishes, never yoked. Why? Because only the ashes of a red heifer can purify the Jewish priests before temple worship begins. Without the red heifer, the temple cannot be used. Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Daniel 8:14. In September 2022, 5 red heifers were flown into Israel from Texas. They were carefully selected, examined for blemishes, checked for even 2 non-red hairs which would disqualify them. This isn't just a religious ceremony. This is prophecy in motion. Let no man deceive you, For that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, who opposeth and exalteth himself, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God. 2 Thessalonians 2, 3-4. The Antichrist will sit in the third temple. But before he can sit, the temple must be built. And before it's built, the red heifer must be sacrificed. We are almost there. The Temple Institute has already announced their intention to perform the red heifer ceremony before Passover this year. That's not next year. That's not someday. That's months away. But wait, if everything is ready, the blueprints, the priests, the furniture, even the red heifer, then why hasn't the third temple been built? There are powerful forces standing in the way, some political, some religious, some spiritual. And what I'm about to reveal will shock you about what's really preventing prophecy from moving forward. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual wickedness in high places. Ephesians 6:12. The enemy knows the Bible, he knows the prophecies, and he knows that when the temple is rebuilt, Jesus returns after that. This battle is more than political, more than religious. It's a battle in the heavenly realm. But there's something even more divisive than spiritual warfare. And there was given me a reed, and the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God. Revelation 11:1. The third temple doesn't just affect Israel, it affects all three major religions: Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. For Muslims, it's a threat. For Jews, it's a promise. For Christians, it's a sign. The temple is more than a building. It's a battleground of faith. But even more shocking is the division within Judaism itself. Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. Matthew 12:25. Many Jewish people don't agree on rebuilding the temple. Some are ultra-Orthodox, some are secular. Some fear it will provoke war. Others believe only the Messiah should rebuild it. But one event, one breakthrough could unite them all in an instant. However, there's even a bigger political obstacle. Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. Revelation 3:11. Why do the heathen rage, and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord. Psalm 2:1-2. If the Israeli government even suggested rebuilding the temple, the United Nations would condemn it. The Arab world would rise up, and nations would threaten war. But what if that chaos is part of the plan? What if prophecy isn't waiting for peace, but for crisis? There's still one final obstacle that seems impossible to overcome. This is the biggest barrier, the Dome of the Rock. It's one of the holiest sites in Islam. It sits right on the Temple Mount, the exact spot where the first and second temples once stood. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain. Daniel 11:45. Any attempt to build the temple would cause a global eruption of protest, violence, and possibly war. The Dome of the Rock was built in 691 AD on top of the Jewish temple ruins. But prophecy says the temple will rise. So what's going to happen to the dome? Something must fall for something else to be raised. Even so, come, Lord Jesus. Revelation 22:20.